it.
Here we go. Just waiting for it to connect to YouTube, which often it connects before it shows me that we're connected. So for those who are watching live, you're waiting for me to greet you, and it's just because it's showing we're not connected.
I always try to edit this beginning part when I post it, but I forgot last time.
You know, it is what it is. Gives a little flavor. Okay. So let me just check because it does not show that we're connected.
Custom live, it says we're recording. It says live from my perspective.
Okay. It shows that we're live. All right. So we're just going to, that's great. So there was a little glitch on this end. So, all right, here we go. So we're rocking and rolling.
Yeah, it is. It is a Gemini full moon, which is Mercury. So it may illuminate technical blockages, you know.
I feel like Madelaine, whenever you and I get together, there's always some sort of like big energetic surge. It's like all this stuff that gets like
yes, and all these unanticipated things occur.
Yes. So anyway, that for our official welcome to all of you, I am Amalia Natalio of KarmicKindness, and joining me is Madelaine Parker, and we discuss and share all of the cosmic goodness that comes with each full moon and new moon cycle. We have a Gemini full moon, as Madelaine just shared, coming up tomorrow, which is November 27th at 4:16 a.m., which would be 1:16 a.m. Pacific. 4:16 a.m. Eastern. And what I find really interesting about this full moon energy, because we're recording this and going live here right before it, like we're in that orb of the energy of the moon, how things are already highlighted and being revealed to us. You know, when you think, okay, Gemini is, the archetype is the twins. It's this dual-sided nature. You probably have a Gemini in your life where they change their mind frequently. You know, they say one thing and they mean it in that moment, but then something happens and then they change their mind. And so you never really know quite fully what you're getting with Geminis. And this energy is really going to be activating our mind, our mental, working through the stories that show up for us, the stories that we tell ourselves. Then we have, so the moon is in Gemini, the sun is in Sagittarius, and Gemini is like the details, and I think of Sagittarius as the bigger picture. Gemini is fine-tuning that so that the Sagittarian energy can really help you. You know, the archetype is the archer. When you're pulling that bow back, before you release it, that arrow to hit the target of whatever your goal or your dream or your idea is, you're not going to release it until you know it's going to hit. And I feel like that's where Gemini is really helpful, because Gemini will help you see those finer details and help you hone in and tweak exactly where to aim that arrow so that it hits the target. What I find also illuminating about this full moon, and Madelaine, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this too, is and I mentioned this already about the stories that we tell ourselves, and how many of us have these stories around ourselves, around relationships, around our job, around other people, around our families. I mean, we're in this vortex right now of the holidays. So people are getting together with family members, or they're getting together with their significant others' family members, and all the drama and all of the stories that go along with being with family, because they are some of our biggest and most challenging teachers. And I know within my family of origin, so like my mother and my siblings and their extended family, you know, there's been some tensions, and there's been some activations where there's some discomfort within the structure of family. where one person has a mindset of like, this is how it needs to be, and the other members of the family aren't aware of it. And then they get pulled into the upset of a family member who's not getting what they need or receiving what they feel they deserve. That's a big one. So it's kind of this nervous, frenetic energy. So, some people's nervous systems might feel a little frazzled, like they're kind of on edge. And to be aware of that and to take measures to find strategies. And I have a few on my YouTube channel to calm the nervous system, to bring you into balance. I mean, breath is one of the easiest, cheapest, simplest ways to come back into balance. Inhaling through the nose for 3, exhaling through the mouth for 4 to 6. And you can do that in through the nose, out through the nose too. All different ways. I mean, deep belly breaths, putting your hand on your belly and breathing deeply into your abdomen, and then filling your chest and then breathing out. There's so many ways that you can bring yourself back into balance, and going in nature is another great way. So, there's more I would love to share about this, but I'll share more along the way. So I'd love to hear, Madelaine, what you're seeing in the stars. And I know you were doing a deep dive this morning.
Oh yeah. Crazy. Crazy. But I just want to add to your solutions there that you were giving about being too nervous, energetically fried or whatever, is to ground on a rock. Grounding is also, just to add that little bit to your fabulous list.
Yeah, that I love that, because that's another simple, easy thing to do. Is to just, and rocks are incredibly grounding.
If you
and the earth too.
Somewhere. If you can barefoot somewhere and ground energetically with the earth, you're grounding. And I love to do with my clients and stuff, I love to do really major grounding meditations where you feel completely connected to the earth. You feel your weight on your chair. The chair is connected to the earth. You feel completely blended with the physical. Anyway.
Yeah. That does feel really nice.
Feeling your weight on your chair like grounds you, I need all that, because I'm very in my ascendant is 0 degrees Cancer, so I'm right on the cusp of Gemini Cancer. So as you can see, I'm a really nervous, movie person. In Vedic, I'm Gemini, so I'm very like a lot of movement, because Mercury's sudden movement, like you were talking about, is mutable, it's changeable. And you're right. You want to, when you make plans with mutable Dan, we have a Gemini friend whose name is Dan. And I always know when you make plans with mutable Dan, they're mutable. So anyway, the point being, yes, about all that, we're definitely in a very interesting time here. We're really seeing something. Astrology is confusing, because a lot of times when you're giving readings and you're looking at what's going on in the transits, there's a bigger story at the end of the cycle of each one of these particular planets is going through these cycles. So we're really looking at the end of a 2-year cycle here, story with Mars. And because Mars is conjoining the sun and opposing this new moon, this full moon. So we're really sort of unblocking a resistance to where, if we were completely aligned with our intuitive center all the time, we wouldn't have any of these we wouldn't have any problems. Years ago, we would have lined up onto where we're about to be pushed to line up to. We would have lined up to that without a problem if our will didn't get in the way. So we're basically facing some sort of I'm just making sure, was I supposed to go into it now? I wasn't sure if I was just talking about what you were saying, but we're jumping in.
Go. Yeah.
So basically what we're doing is, there was some mental resistant shadow aspect. Sagittarius is rigid thinking, dogmatic, over the top, rigid, like one way or the highway kind of thinking. And so now what's happening is this whole journey we've been on this end, because we've ended a Mars 2-year cycle. So we're initiating a new Mars 2-year cycle. So we're at the end of this other cycle where our resistance, because Mars is the mind, it's Aries, it rules the head, which is the mind wants to run the show, the head. And then with Sagittarius, it's the way it is. We're going to make it like that, right? And we somehow think that the more strong we make it like that, the more our will happen. So it's almost like we entrench deeper into the idea or notion in our head. But there's a destiny at play here. There was where we're supposed to be had we not locked on to something here. So so we're going to see. I will show you the chart. Is it time for me to show the chart?
Yeah, go ahead. I'd love it.
Yeah, we're going to see here where we didn't know mentally, Gemini, to align with our destiny, because our mind and our knowledge up to that point, our awareness and our consciousness up to that point couldn't see it, can't. Our minds are limited.
Hey, Madelaine, would you mind you have a synastry up between you, like a transit chart rather?
Oh yeah. I'm looking at, you're right.
Yeah, it might be confusing for people. There we go.
I was just, see, I've got this, interestingly enough, when we were looking at my chart, I have this entire transit squaring my moon, Saturn, which is right on my moon. So I'm having an exact experience around this. And this is a Mercury ruled full moon, by the way. And anyone who's having a Mercury profection year, you're going to feel it the most. It's sometimes not really the signs that you are that feels it stronger. It's if that planet that's ruling this full moon is your profection planet for the year.
Would you elaborate on that for folks who may not know what that means?
Yes. So I'm going to pop up a chart right here. I'm going to pull out of, I'm going to open annual profection, and it's very helpful. It's very important, actually. Let me pop it back up. Sorry, it really helps you understand how, and when I'm doing readings for people, because it's hard to know which transit is going to feel, they're going to feel it stronger, right? So I'm going to stop.
I think I was going to say, you're going to have to stop sharing.
Stop the share, and then I'm going to go to it here. So
there we go.
I got to pull it down here. Yeah. So there's the, so what we have is every year of your life, the planet that rules that house. So in other words, you start at 0 is your first house. So every year that you live, that house, what lands in a profection calendar, you can calculate it for yourself, but it's easier this way. Like when you're 56 years old, it's a 9th house year. So whatever planet is ruling your 9th house is the planet that whatever transits are happening that year, you're going to feel they happen. I mean, it's no doubt. I've been watching this. I'm a Mercury profection year. Every Mercury transit, something happens with me, boom. And other major transits that are occurring, I'm like, whoa, why is it? Am I not feeling that? And so then it's because I'm on a Mercury profection year, and right now Mercury is in Sagittarius, really close to my sun. This is a Mercury ruled full moon. So we're going to go back to.
That's really cool, Madelaine. I had not seen that chart. That makes it so easy to see another facet of the energetic experience that you're having.
Yeah. And
really cool.
And I test all these things out for myself. I mean, I learn about them in my studies, but then when I just sort of apply it to my own notes and I'm studying it, I'm like, wow, no, that is pretty impressive. I mean, it really does impact you. That planet you will see that transit in your life. Like, so anyway, so bottom line is back to where we were. Here we are with the Mars and the sun conjoining. They conjoin every 2 years, and every time any planet joins with the sun, there's a cycle. There's a kazemi. There's a purifying of the motives. There's a reconnection with the solar revitalization energy. Basically, that energy is revitalized and reinvigorated and ready for a new beginning as it comes out of combustion, which is, I think, I'd have to check and see when that is, but it might be a January. Anyway. So it fortifies also the energy of Mars, and the sun is giving everyone a lot of energy, a lot of motivation. This is an interesting time of the year. We're really going to see a lot of things happening, people moving. A lot of planets are direct. We're going to have Jupiter going direct at the end of the month. So we're seeing a lot of like energy, motivation, people needing to do something. There are things, something stuck in everyone's lives because of this big square to Saturn. See, there's a big square to Saturn right here. and this is an opposition to the moon. Well, I should get it to the moon. Well, let me get it to the full moon here. So there's an opposition to the moon. Let me just get it to the right. Oh, time here. So there is the moon at 1 degree close. And where's the moon?
Top
Sorry,
right.
guys. Yeah, I got to get it to, so we're on the 26th. So I want to go to the 27th.
Yep.
The moon, what? Oh, because I'm in hours. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Gotta go to days. Now we move it. Okay. So
There we go.
So let me edit that. So we want to go to 1 a.m. there around that time. So now we go. It's a 4 degree, 5 degree, 4 to 5 degree. So so we have the opposition right here, and then we have a big T square to Saturn. So this is the end of this Mars cycle, and we're initiating a new cycle, and Saturn is in here. Saturn is saying, no, you're going the wrong way. Your thinking has been pulling you off this path in some way. Your rigid thinking, your belief, Sagittarius can also be your belief, is stopping something from happening that needs to happen, that the universe is part of the plan. It was the journey was initiated 2 years ago when Mars and Mars and the Sun conjoined in Libra. So in other words, we're wrapping up. We've got the South Node, which is in Libra, at the same time. So there's something about relationships, some sort of belief system, some sort of rigidity, resistance that's stopping us. And then potentially also we're going to talk about letting go of relationships, or some sort of habit in relationships, some sort of way of, shall we say, acting in relationships that is not authentic. That is part of this blockage. So it's some sort of belief, resistance, attitude, rigidity that has caused a blockage in our destiny that may stem from operating in relationships in a way that is inauthentic. So, in other words, we're going to, and Saturn, and this is for the long haul, Saturn is in the story. So when Saturn is in the story, this is taking us, Saturn, this is a long-term shift. So
let me summarize just to see
sure.
if we're all on the same page, because I feel like you were reading and channeling the information. It was coming through in a way that was a lot. And so I feel like I might need to do it for myself, and it might be helpful to them watching too.
I'm going to get more water.
Yeah. So essentially kind of what I'm hearing is that what's been happening for a lot of folks recently is that, or is a pattern, is that within relationships, and this could be any kind of relationship, I'm not getting the sense it's necessarily an intimate partnership, although it could be. Anything. But there's that where you're showing up within the relationship, maybe to keep the peace, or for whatever reason that might be for you, that's not really authentically who you are, how you feel, and you're not being truthful in some ways, because I mean, Sagittarius also has to do with the truth. And so your mental, I'm bringing in Gemini here, attitude around it, that your fixed mind thought pattern is, which is kind of the opposite, not really Gemini, but like that rigid way of thinking, or that rigid way of believing something, is what has caused you to block what is really there and waiting for you. So now we have Saturn coming in, shaking up that foundation to create a new one, laying that foundation for everyone going forward in a new way within that relationship or other relationships.
Yeah, and I wouldn't know that I would necessarily say new, but you could possibly say new. But this is a journey that began a while back. So if we were to look at the chart back then, we would see a Saturn transit in on that picture as well. Gotcha. So in other words, Saturn is saying you can't think your way out of this one anymore. Like, I'm going to give you an example. For instance, I know someone who's crunching up. They've been on their path and they're crunching up to rent, and they're like not sure that they have rent, and there's something they're doing that they aren't doing, or there's a resistance to it. They're thinking they can't do this. Like they have some perception that going down this route means they've failed.
Ah.
And so they won't do it. But that's the route that they need to go, because it doesn't mean you failed. It's the direction that's going to take you the right way. It's your perception.
Yeah.
And so now it's at a crisis point because you haven't been doing it. So this crisis shows up where you say, I have to do it now. I don't have any choice. I got to do it. So your rigidity, your limited thinking, your belief system, your programming, all these things have been misguiding you. And Saturn comes in and says, sorry, I trump all of that. I'm going to tell you this is how it's going to be, because when Mars is squaring Saturn, there's a will against the wall. The will not, your self-will will not be, even though Saturn's in Pisces right now, which is interesting because Saturn in Pisces is very fluid and a little calmer and a little more weak in a way, but it's emotional. Mm-hmm. So there's an emotional context to it. So it's almost like Saturn saying, no, your heart, the emotional center in Pisces is your higher divine, because Jupiter is exalted in Pisces, Cancer. Jupiter is exalted in Pisces, in Cancer. Venus is exalted in Pisces. Venus is in the picture. So there's a higher love or a higher dream, or that our limited minds block us from, because it goes against our programming, because things are always in flux and expanding in ways that we can't, when things are expanding, we can't necessarily comprehend exactly how they're expanding. So we want to drive the car, we want to go this way. So we're not understanding it is going to make us not understand where to drive the car, as it were. So now Saturn comes in and is like, you can't go this way. We're going to square, boom, this way. And you're going to have to do something. You're meeting a wall. You're hitting a wall somewhere. Like, you've got to pay that rent. You've got to figure this out. And you got to make a big choice, a big step up, a big doing it. And this is interesting because in the last couple of eclipses, we still haven't really seen some of the changes those eclipses have shown in the chart. Like, I've been watching them. And now Venus is at that degree point of the eclipse, the Libra eclipse, with the South Node there. So we're letting go of our blockages to what those eclipses want to bring us. And, I'm personally going through it. I can see it completely in my life, because I'm at a point in my life where I have to make a very big decision here. I have the South Node, and I'm rising sign Cancer. So I have the South Node in Libra conjoining in my 4th house. So there's and I've been looking for somewhere to live, basically really where to settle for the last 2 years. Yeah. I can't figure that out. I'm a nomad. I grew up as a diplomat kid. I traveled the world. I'm Sagittarius. I'm a nomad, so I'm at a precipice now where I have to make a decision. And so I'm literally, I'm forced to go against some resistant mentality of my own around these choices of where to be. And I've been on this path at least for 2 years, for sure. So it's basically the universe. Well,
The other thing I hear you saying, Madelaine, is that some of this is ego story too, and perception. We're talking about the stories we tell ourselves. And, the example that you gave, I don't know the details around that, but I can feel that for myself and for people that are watching this too, that there's some story that we are attached to, that if we make this choice or we make this decision, means that, like you said, like that you failed. It means that we screwed up. It means that we made a mistake. It means all these things that we make it mean, when really it's just perhaps that we've been resisting the path that's been available to us all along, because it seems like it's not a good path. It seems like it's it's one that's going to take us down a road that we don't want, when really it's the path that is divinely guided for us,
And I would
divinely
almost,
orchestrated.
yeah, I would guide you out of the word seem, because you think. I
Ah,
would say that it
okay.
actually seems
Uh-huh.
different than what you think. I would think that if you went with how it really seems, if you were to go really like in your intuitive center and then apply your logic to your intuitive knowing, you would say, yeah, it's pretty obvious this is what's, I should be doing this, or this is where I need to be going. I need to get over myself. I need to get over my ego, because the full moon, this is going to be tough for some people. I mean, it's frustrating. It's hard. It's like there's a perceived sense of power around this. It's like, this is how you think you're going to be in your power. So there's a surrender, there's a giving up, I've failed, I lose, I can't do this anymore. I can't fight this through the mind anymore. The mind isn't giving me any way. Like, we've been continuing to resist this path up until now, and Saturn goes, no more. And all this time we've had other ideas and other ways that we can do, and la la la, and it kind of and now it's at the point where, sorry, end of the road here. You got to stop it on some level. So I had kind of a breakthrough. I get it in a way. I mean, we can look at this now if you want. We can look at all the 12 signs, but let me just look and see a couple more things to look at here. We do have this Venus in the South Node. Now that's a biggie. It happens every year because the Venus or under a year. So that's not necessarily a big deal. But the fact that it happens on this new moon, I mean, on this full moon on the 27th, it's pretty close. So let me just look at Pluto. So that's been happening. That's nothing new. That's right. So we have Mercury is very much a part of the story. We need to look at Mercury because Mercury is squaring Neptune during this full moon. So that's a biggie because of a Mercury Neptune square. I don't know if it can bring clarity and make you completely change your mind, which is part of this whole thing. Because you suddenly get clarity and then you realize you need to change your mind. You've been trying to control everything, and that's been ego. And you suddenly go, because Neptune is higher love, higher octave Venus, letting go, South Node Venus, squaring higher octave love Neptune. So you're waking up, you're realizing, oh my gosh, I've been ego, hard, heavy duty ego. So all this is happening at the same time. So, and Venus is exalted in Pisces. So exalted energies, Pisces, Venus energies at the same time. Even though it doesn't have a relationship. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. It's pretty wide. So yeah, 1, 1. So it's squaring Mercury, but not doing anything with Venus really. So it's really more of a awakening, a realization that enables you to let go of inauthentic patterns in relationships. People are finding their authenticity because they're realizing now you want to be careful that you don't become illusional or delusional or overly hypo optimistic about unrealistic things, or when I say that, I mean logical. So it's like, there's some sort of understanding of a illusion. So the ending of the illusion, a square, ending an illusion. Ego is the illusion that like, for instance, that we have our will is going to work. Like our delusional strong will is going to work. That's an illusion. And it's like, we're waking up from a delusional based self-will. Anyway, that's all.
It feels like one really great takeaway would be for people to observe themselves. Just watch yourself and how you are engaging with other people. Observe your thoughts. Is that really true? What you're thinking? Is that the perception of the situation that you're in the actual truth of what's going on? Because I feel like for myself anyway, I've noticed in that observation in the past few days of myself within different interactions, I'm recognizing the truth of what's actually happening versus what I've been thinking has been happening all along, and seeing what my role is in and how I can shift and change things and not take things so personally.
Yep.
You know,
Bang on that. I think that's a really good way to because like I'm looking at the transit and then you sort of translated it into sort of layman's terms, as it were. But I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm really waking up from a delusion myself right now. I really am, actually, because all this is impacting my chart very strong, very well. Saturn is on my moon, so it's all happening on my moon. And I'm really connecting with my ego delusional, rigid thinking, delusional based rigid thinking.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun to go there and be like,
Talk
oh,
about
wow.
the tower card. Your brain just goes like, whoa, like now you see things differently. I mean, it's interesting. I some of these transits I think will play out hard for people in the form of a crisis, ego breakdown, ego dark night of the soul, ego burn, ego crash, because we just are trying to control things, and you can't control the universe. You can't control a butterfly. You can't control the expansion of things. So should we do all the 12 signs? Go through them all?
Let's rock on to the signs. We're going to start with Aries, obviously. And thank you for those who are watching. If you have any questions or comments, or we share something you want clarity on, like just drop a note in the comments, whether you're joining us now live or you're catching the replays. We'll pop back on and see what's going on, and we'd love interaction. It would be super fun. I'm kind of toggling back and forth between where Madelaine and I are and on Zoom and going over to YouTube. So if we miss something, we'll get back there. We'll get there.
Yep.
Okay.
Aries. All right. So for Aries, you guys have Saturn in your 12th house. Wow, that's pretty interesting, intense time to have Saturn in your 12th house. So it's like, it's kind of like, talk about your blind spot, because the 12th house is a blind spot. In astrology, we all have a blind spot where we're kind of doing this too in our lives, where we're just like not, and so that blind spot's coming up. And basically messages that you see the reality, you see the practicality, you see why you've been resisting something and now it becomes practical. It's more reality based, actually, in a weird way. I mean, because it's the 12th house, which is not necessarily reality, it's more past life. But the point of Saturn in the 12th house is point of Saturn in Pisces in general is to ground the ungrounded, is to bring down the ethereal, the imagination, the untangible, make it tangible, right? So for Aries, something now becomes more tangible. Something becomes, and if their ego, they've been blocking, they have the North Node in their first house, so they're redirecting their lives very strong ways. It's a big restart for Aries. They're ruled by Mars in this lunation. So they are having a big change of mind because Sagittarius is their 9th house. So they're having a big opening. The sun is illuminating a problem in a belief system that they have that's been resisting them from and causing a blind spot, squaring that, or actually this lunation is revealing the blind spot, the resistant thinking that's causing a blind spot to the practical way that they can go forward on something that they've been resisting, because they have a belief system, rigid belief, narrow-minded, box thinking. I'm being tough on Aries because I know one. So speaking to this particular Aries, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But anyway, and plus they have Mercury there right now in their 9th house. So they are definitely that, squaring Neptune. They're waking up to a delusional experience that they have, to some sort of rigid belief that's causing them to sort of live in a delusional place around something. Now, Neptune and Saturn are in their 12th house, which is the country, which is rural, which is institutions, or your, shall we say, karmic past life patterns that are here to be cleared in a way. And so you have this truth, the depth. It's like a spiritual, shall we say, realization. To It opens them up spiritually to a spiritual new path, as it were, or a new in reality way, some kind of new structural something in the country or rule. So they get redirected to creating some sort of restructuring in their life, either if it's in the country or it's in an institution, or they're really restructuring a big belief system that's going to last them a long time. Go ahead, Amalia. You look like you're ready.
I'm ready. I was like, you said a couple of key words and I wanted to jump in, but I was like, no, I'm going to let her finish. The fire star orchid is the flower for Aries. And this literally, the message is think outside the box.
Interesting.
You literally use those words about the box thinking. So this is a very innovative energy, very creative energy. And it also allows, I wrote some notes for myself. It also allows you to use your mental abilities for your own benefit versus getting lost in the mind, being able to brainstorm, but brainstorm for a bigger cause, for innovation, for creation, for something new. And I mean, Aries are the innovators. So I feel like this is actually really a very supportive time for them. And this would be a really great flower for Aries to bring into their life right now, whether through screenshot of this, imagining it in your mind and asking the spirit of the plant to support you, using the LOTUSWEI or any other brand tinctures or mists. I mean, I have some here,
Yeah.
I know, Madelaine, you and I were playing with these a little bit when I was out in Sandpoint, like to be able to just spray some around and have access to some of the flower power and that plant medicine that's not psychotropic. You can use it anytime. You can't overdo it. And yeah, this is just the flower.
Boy, I have a lot to say about that flower. So the 12th house can sometimes be considered the highest dimension, the most spiritual house, the closest to God, as it were. It's the last house of the zodiac, so it's the highest dimension. So it's the soul. Some people call the 12th house your soul. So if you look at that picture, the soul is bursting through the ego, which is the red color, which is the Aries color, which is ego, mental resistance. The soul is bursting through.
I mean, and this is also a fire star orchid, fire, Aries. Aries is fire, and it is like the star is you. The star is the soul. Yeah, I love that. I love how what you're seeing within the card.
That's the 12th house.
Flower. Yeah.
Oh, and I haven't really spoken about their third house, because that's actually where the full moon is occurring, is in their third house. And I do know very much when I follow third house lunations in my own chart that something shifts in the people that are around you. So there's a coming. So the prize in the end of all of this, Mercury is the third house, is either new people in your immediate environment, new neighbors, new work projects, new collaboratives, romance, possibly Gemini's very romantic energy with that Libra South Node, letting go of inauthentic to the authentic relationships could very well be grounded in these times, because most people's destiny that this Mars path is taking us on may involve a relationship that you've been trying to let go of or run away from or whatever. So it's part of the destiny that the mind has been resisting. But in the third house, there could be writing a project, communications, full moon communications. There's going to be a lot of breakthroughs of communication. So there, just to wrap that up. Okay. And that's like that card, where there's that explosion outcome of communication. All right. From the soul. So now we're going to go to Taurus.
Taurus. Yeah.
So you guys have, I love it that I worked out this program now, and I have all the houses and all the planets, all the planets in the right house for the sign as the ascendant. Okay, so for Taurus, you guys have Aries over your 12th house, and you have Mars over your 8th. Oh, talk about busting through some kind of you have the moon in your second house, Gemini in your second house. So talk about busting out of a rigid belief around money and spending, almost breaking but something could happen. A debt could show up, or you could suddenly decide, see you have a debt and you got to pay it off, or you suddenly decide you want more financial liberation. So you decide to, because remember, this Mars is squaring Saturn here, and Saturn is in your 11th house. So it's almost like friendship, peer groups, something, you break out and you decide to spend money or go into debt. You've got Jupiter in your first house, so you're really newly initiating things. And the second house, full moon, something about your money, you decide to either initiate a new way, because this full moon is going to bring something, bring an opportunity, bring the flute. So a new auspicious way of making money comes in that either enables you to pay off a debt, or you decide to quit a job and you can't pay off your debt, but there's another way you can pay your debt, and you decide to go do it, like get a loan, get shall we say, refinance a property. But somehow you're getting some kind of a financial frustration around your money where you felt trapped and you haven't wanted to do something because of money, or feeling some sort of obligation, or your mind around money. And then Saturn comes in and says, no, you have to deal with this. You have to deal with this. So then you motivate to go back to a financial opportunity that you didn't go for before because you didn't believe in it. Something like that. See what the card does that. See if the card helps us.
Okay, so
all about money.
We have Mandavia, and Mandavia is about accepting what is in front of you. And so from what you were saying, how I would interpret that is that if you feel like you missed an opportunity, or you feel like something escaped you, know that you're accepting wherever you are. And if that opportunity was meant for you, it's going to come back around to you. And there's a sense of peace around, if it went by, it's almost like that saying, what is truly yours will not go past you. So if that opportunity was truly meant for you, there will be another opportunity for you to jump back in. And if it wasn't, if that time window or that time closed, something else will appear, and just accept where you are right now, because it wasn't meant for you then, and it wasn't meant for you now.
Right.
It could have been like it's always that the free will and then the destined path. And we always end up on the destined path. It just might take us a little longer to get there. So let me see if there's anything else here.
I'm trying to think of some Taurans I know who, I know some Taurans who are spending money on their horses, boarding their horses, which then puts them more in, which is more costly, because instead of doing the horses themselves, they're paying for someone else now. So this full moon, but maybe they discover that they should have done this all along, because now that frees up their time to invest money or focus on money or improving their finances in other ways. So in other words, like, you decide to do something that liberates you from the last full moon or new moon that puts you more in debt. So then you have to make a change. You have to do something to your finances, which then you realize you should have always done. Like, refinance your house, and suddenly you get much. I know the interest rates aren't that great right now, but you take, I know what, you take that piece of land and you build something on it for your work.
Well, there's
something like that. It changes you.
Being a Taurus moon myself, what I can say that's shown up for me around that is financial opportunities that have been presented to me, that some that I jumped in on and they didn't pan out the way I thought. Some that I did not jump in on and am looking back, and not with regret, because I don't have regret in that way, but more of mindfully yet heart-centeredly going into the process of reflection on contemplation on potential missed opportunities, and how I can center myself enough to jump into opportunities as they present themselves now. So, like there was one where it was an investment, and if I had gotten into it 6 weeks ago, the benefit of that would have been pretty large. I can still jump in now, but I'm not going to be, the terms aren't quite as good. So there was a cost for not
Yes.
jumping in a
Yep.
few weeks ago.
Yep.
Now, but there's this opportunity to do it now. And so now I have another choice to make. Do I do this? Why did I not make that choice a few weeks ago? What stopped me then? Is that still a valid reason now? Or was it fear? Was I scared? Did I feel like it was a mistake? All the things you were talking about before. So
you have Saturn in your 11th house. For Taurans have Saturn and Neptune in their 11th house. So there may have seen Neptune and all of that may have given you a delusional, it could have been delusional that it wasn't safe or that it is safe. I mean, Neptune and then
either way.
Mercury comes in and squares it, ends the delusion of it all, which means you see clearer. But again, it could operate for some that they do get an impulsive, in this full moon, impulsive sort of delusional, because Sagittarius and Mars, they're impulsively acting, in a way that could be not good for the long term.
Right. Exactly. So good to pay attention to that.
Yep. Gemini in your first house, you guys, this is a big one. So you guys are coming to the end of a big journey that's been going on for 2 years now. And you're now ready to, let me get Gemini on here. Gemini, yep. So you're going to have this full moon in your first house. You're going to have the sun in your 7th. Wow. Are you guys waking up about a relationship? You guys are you're realizing you've been mentally very much resistant about a relationship that's true in your soul, that's in your heart. And it's just, you realize you're waking up. Neptune, Mercury is squaring Neptune in your 10th house of career. But, Neptune is basically, that's your 10th house of Saturn. So you've got some sort of serious belief around something, that this relationship wasn't serious maybe, or didn't make you look good. You wanted it to make you look better, or in other words, but it's in your heart. And now you have to be with the person that's in your heart. And with the sun there, illuminating that you've been ego active, ego choosing, resisting. And then you've got the South Node Libra. You're probably letting go of a relationship that's not authentic. You're going to let something go, a relationship that's not authentic, but also even friendships that aren't authentic. You're going to let go of, shall we say, the keeping a true relationship in a friendship term, in a friends only term. So because you're at some sort of blockage if you're in a current relationship, or you're in some sort of blockage in relationships, you're stuck. Something feels like you can't go forward in a relationships or with relationships, because your head has taken you as far as you can go via the head. And then you wake up to the illusion of it. And Mercury, you're ruled by Mercury and it's squaring Neptune. So you're realizing you've been operating out of an ego delusional place, making choices for your relationships. And it's status based or something. Go ahead.
It's so funny because as you were talking about this at the beginning, I kept hearing this phrase, waking up to love, healing the heart.
Wow. Interesting.
And we have the rose as the flower for Gemini. And I love that, the rose being the ubiquitous flower of love. It's the highest vibrational flower. And it's one that has there's a power to the rose and a softness at the same time. The color of the rose makes such a difference to the vibrational frequency that it carries. Red being the highest vibrational frequency, but all of the colors of roses have a different energetic, or like a different flavor, if you will. So I really love the rose for Gemini.
We talk about the heart, because if the yellow represents solar, the yellow represents the heart, the solar, the sun, Leo, the 5th house. It's like the soul relationship is busting through. The heart has to bust through here,
and I this is a really, all the moon cycles are powerful. There's always some sort of magic that happens, but this one feels particularly potent for some. And I feel like if you have Gemini and a Gemini activation in your chart somewhere of prominence, this is one that you will feel in the I want to say consequences, but that's not really the right word, but the impact will be felt for a while, you know?
Yeah. Well, this is a full moon in your first house. Usually when full moons hit your first house, something really does change about you. You become more of like, you change the way you dress. You kind of become a new, more authentic version of yourself. You're a little more, because it's a Leo energy. The moon there, though, is emotional. It's your subconscious. So you're really living a more true version of yourself. And with Libra on the south node, where's Libra for them? In their fifth house, they're letting go of superficial relationships. Oh my gosh, if that isn't clear transit for that south node in some of these ways that some of these Libra south node conjoined Venus are going to play out is simply people not trying anymore to act the way they need to act to make the relationship there. It's like the exhaustion of that is
done. Yeah.
so,
All right, Cancer.
Woohoo, that's me. I can tell you all about it. I can tell you all about this. Well, basically, this Saturn is in your ninth house. So our ninth house, we have Sun and Mars and Mercury in the sixth house. And then we have the moon, new moon, full moon in our 12th. So the 12th house, full moon, is the soul. Basically, illumination occurs around the soul, around communication, Gemini communication, the soul. Now, I'm definitely going through travel because I've got Saturn in my ninth house. So and the 12th house is long distance travel. So perhaps the ability to long distance travel opens up, or clarity about that, a plan, or because of schooling, ninth house can be either starting to take on the project that you really like. There's a soul connection to knowing what you need to do in the ninth house, which is what Saturn is trying to redirect us in. So you become clear on your soul's mission and to teaching, or you become clear on what teacher you want, or if you're learning, you want to take a course. Or you want to go, you need to go seclude into the country so that you can study something. Or you're going to seclude into the country and write. Gemini's writing. But there's definitely an ego breakdown of a resistance to a work and travel. Now you've got the South Node in your fourth house. So you have to let go of some sort of idea about where to live or about living or your living situation. So you're rapidly letting go of some sort of rigid idea of where you're going to travel, what your work needs to be. I mean, this is kind of an interesting one. I mean, this is like you're really letting go of resistance to a lot of things that is going to be a big redirect in the lives of Cancer, in work, travel, living, and potentially the country or travel again. But it's a soul, because you've got this full moon in your soul house. You know your soul, you know what you want. It's like you've been resisting it because of your ego, and it's been forcing you off course in a living situation, slightly in your work. So, I mean, what happens is all your plans and ideas about how everything in these areas need to go forward are going to go kaboomba. And there's some sort of blind spot that you've been blocking through ego and through resistance, and it's in your sixth house, which could be enemy or creating or some sort of resistance because you think something's your enemy, or you think, Sagittarians, because that's the Sagittarius house. So it's like there's it's like you were saying, going forward, a long-term project coming in. So it's been holding you back. It's been some sort of rigid belief has been holding back a long-term project or long-term travel plans or long-term. a big block is about to be broken through here, and it's emotional because it involves the new moon, the full moon in your 12th house. So it's like your soul now says it's time. I've got to stop letting my sixth house pettiness, critical, I don't know, so I want to say hostile creating mind or a mind that has a hostility around you, thinking some thoughts that are causing you to think that it's bad or wrong. It's hard to explain, but there's like, I'm putting the sixth house with the Pisces energy, I mean with the Sagittarius energy, which is this rigid thinking due to criticism or critical, something like that, or observing. But go ahead.
Well, I was going to say maybe the card will help kind of anchor some of it in. And this is, let's see if we can, let me see if let's see if you can see this. So
Maybe help.
This is the bird's foot lotus. Mm-hmm. And you were, as you were talking about all these different areas of life that this moon is going to affect, the bird's foot lotus reminds you to like guide you towards contentment. So all these things that you're talking about are leading you to a place of contentment and moving you further away from a place of worry and all these issues that you have to try to figure out or you have to try to do. It really just brings you back into a place of, okay, here are the tasks at hand. This is what I need to do. And you're ready to take charge. You're ready to do the action. You're ready to make the move that's going to actually line you up with a place of contentment. So, and for Cancerians, you've talked about the different areas where that's going to be a place of discovery for them once you take that action.
Yeah.
And you find your way through. There's
that's interesting because these transits for Cancer in those houses, it's almost like there's a habitual, because the sixth house is what you do on a day-to-day. So there's some sort of day-to-day belief that is blocking your health and your wealth and your work. And there's a spiritual source to it. The full moon, the moon there, it's emotional, and it's causing you to make decisions that are throwing you off alignment. So yes, and and on the other side of that is the clarity to what the soul really does want, what the soul is really seeking. So in a way, this full moon could be challenging, but at the same time, it really is going to be great for everybody in the end on the other side of it, getting to the place that we're supposed to be.
And so this is bird's foot lotus for those who want to kind of keep track of the flowers. And I just wanted to say it again, because it's also like the way, just taking the name of the flower itself, it's like a bird can see from the higher vantage point. Foot, you're taking that step forward. Lotus, you're in the mud, you're in the muck, but then you are emerging on the other side, feeling that sense of contentment. But there is some action you have to take. There is something that will come up that you're going to have to face and move through.
Yes, in fact, that's a good thing to say for all of the 12 signs in this full moon. There's going to be it's action, no doubt about it, with that fiery Mars Sun conjoining. There's some sort of action that we take this week. It's going to be a busy week. Actually, that's another thing to look at with a full moon, with the Sun and Mars in your sixth house. Busy energy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now let's look at
Leo.
Stop. Leo. Okay, good. Leo. Okay, so Saturn is in your 8th house. Now Mercury and all these Sagittarius planets, Sun in your 5th house, full moon. So some sort of resistance around a friendship, friendships plural. Now the 11th house is where the moon will be. So it's like an illumination of a friendship group, or because the 11th house is lucky gains, lucky wins. So there's some sort of opportunity or some sort of thing that, like, you were almost like kind of like what we were talking about for Taurus, but some sort of illumination occurs around friendship and lucky gains and lucky wins. And there's been mental resistance around it that is rigid, that is limited, that now is able to, shall we say, like there's a point here where you have to take some kind of a, because remember, we're talking about blocks and we're busting through a block in the eighth house. So there's something about finances and money that because Saturn is there, that's been squaring your ability to go forward with something that is Sagittarius, potentially spiritual, or shall we say creative projects. Fire energy is very creative. Fifth house is very creative. That's been resisting a creative project going forward. And so the full moon in your 11th house illuminates, shall we say, friendship groups, peer groups, or assistance, or ways that you can help, or ways. And then you have you have a breakthrough because the moon, I'm way off the day here. Let me go back day, because we have that Neptune in the eighth house. So you've got that Mercury squaring Neptune there. And then you have the South Node and Venus in your third house. So you're letting go of I would say, inauthentic communication. Because the third house is also running your own business, or it's a Gemini house. So there's sort of letting go of inauthentic ways of people that are around you that are inauthentic, releasing that. It's trining your 11th house. So it's basically you're really seeing some sort of mental resistance to friendship groups that are or a friendship or relationship, resistance to some sort of financial investment or restructuring that could put you onto a project or creative venture. Like, let's use pregnancy as a metaphor here. So
Actually, I can give
yeah,
an real life
sure.
example of something going on that might be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, pregnancy is probably a great thing to talk about
Yeah.
too. But in terms of like the 11th house aspect of this, what I've been noticing recently as a Leo sun with this 11th house friendship group is that what I've noticed is actually through friendships, I have noticed aspects of myself that are maybe inauthentic, or aspects of myself. So it's not about letting go of other people necessarily, although that could be the case.
Right.
It's about being able to see myself more clearly through the relationships, and then make changes within me. Or in some cases, it might be letting go of a particular friend or group of friends. And the gardenia talks about this specifically, about shifting your perception. That's the activation here. And the message is transform your weaknesses into strengths. So being able to see myself clearly and how I show up within the relationships, and be able to fine tune myself in a way that's really more aligned with the person that I am looking to rise into, versus who my mind thinks that I am, but it's not really actually showing up congruently. They're not together. My brain is like slow.
I know, now you know what I mean. He's like, so yes, I think yes, that's interesting. And so let's back to the pregnancy one though. Let's say because Saturn is in your eighth house, which is a relationship for Leo. So let's say you've been resisting getting pregnant because of you don't think you have enough money, or you're afraid that you don't have enough money. Well, now you realize an opportunity comes in, or friendship groups, or something happens with that full moon that maybe your partner now is very solvent, a lucky win. And so you're able to go ahead and get pregnant. This will be a big long-term shift. So you shift your perception about how much money you need, and things feel more stable.
Okay.
But yes, this is absolutely, when you get these types of you've got the nodes in your ninth and your third house, Leo. So you're going through a big spiritual crisis, mental crisis, as it were. Like you're rebalancing. You're finding a new belief that's based on you, and your perceptions are changing. Yeah. And this full moon in your sixth, fifth, and 11th is all about friendships, tribes, groups, and resisting certain friends because some sort of mental resistance, and now you're realizing there's some sort of financial freedom or breakthrough via a friendship or relationship. Like maybe you and a partner join financing and do a creative project. Something.
Well, I will say some financial opportunities have been presented to me through friends. And then being able to see, okay, and also collaborations, like working with friends on creative projects that would be financially fruitful.
Yeah.
Planting seeds for that. So,
and so something happens in this full moon where it busts through resistance of a blockage in that, or a mental resistance. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's break
let's
through.
do it. Yeah. All right.
All right.
So
Virgo.
Let me get the right way on this. Virgo. Okay, great. So you guys we've got Saturn in your 7th house, which can play out 2 ways, either blocks relationships, but because I've been knowing what they have Capricorn over their 5th, I think a lot of Virgo are coming into their relationships, they're restructuring their lives with a serious relationship in the picture because they've had Pluto in their 5th house. So they've really cleared a lot of codependency issues. So I think they're kind of ready now for their ending of that soulmate cycle a lot of people are on. If you're in a relationship, you're going to restructure things in your relationship there with Saturn squaring Mars and the Sun in your 4th house. So you're either going to be something about a rigidity about your relationships, about some sort of rigid belief about home or living situations. Like, for instance, let's say you won't be in a relationship with someone because they live somewhere far away. Well, now you break through and you see a way you can move or live in a co-place together or find a place to live. Like, you realize you've been taking it offense. It's been hurting your feelings, because whenever there's a full moon, you kind of break through an emotional, you grow up a little bit emotionally on another level. So you sort of go, I've just been resisting it because I didn't want to be the one to make the move because I thought it was, he should make the move or whatever. And then you decide to go ahead and do it. And you can actually work it out, and it's actually much better. So you're breaking through some sort of resistance towards also family, 4th house. You could have conflict with a mother or lashing out, or just simply realizing you need to move and change where you're living with the moon there. And then with the in the 10th house, career, you've got a full moon there. So it's almost like career opportunity now becomes more available. You realize you've been really resisting this relationship and moving or changing your living situations, but somehow a career opportunity now you're able to sort of expand your career better because of this. Maybe the location involves another shift in your career, and you decide to take that shift, and it really is better for your career as well, because and so some sort of rigid belief could also have been around a career, around doing this as a career, but now you have to do something. You have to make a choice on a career. You have, maybe you do get fired. Maybe you do know you need to leave this job. It's not it's toxic job or toxic environment. So you need to come up, you need to find it. You've just been hanging out in this job just because it's there and it's been working, and you just kind of create security. But now it's like, you've got to do something, and it may involve moving, because a lot of these choices we haven't been making have been because we didn't know how to do it. We couldn't see it. So now it's like, we're going to see it. We're going to know how to, but there's going to be some sort of push through that makes you decide to just do it. And it could be the relationship because it's squaring Saturn. So you have a wake up around a relationship. So yeah, go ahead.
All right. So for Virgos, we have the nasturtium.
Oh, wow.
And the nasturtium, to me, it's like this. At first glance, this flower to me really speaks of creative power. Just looking at the yellows and the oranges of the flower itself. And the message of this card is being spontaneous, spontaneity. Virgos are not typically spontaneous. Virgos are very methodical and practical and organized, and they have the steps of everything laid out for themselves. what this really shows to me, or how I perceive this, is that for Virgos, they're going to have these little opportunities that are illuminated by this full moon, and follow them instead of taking all of these like practical, organized, step-by-step approaches that are great. But right now you're being called to do something different. And this is really going to spice up your life in ways that you don't necessarily expect. And I love just kind of like what you were sharing too about relationships and careers. Those are two big pieces of life for most people. And to recognize, like, if a spontaneous action may lead you to a door that opens in one of those two areas, or closes a door if it's not what your destined path is at this time. So I really love this card. And it also just feels it feels powerful, but it also feels really bright.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's like,
yeah,
it's very much a breaking through of, like, I'm just looking at their second house, letting go, north node. I mean, it really does feel like expanding out of fear, like, because I really metaphorically see red as the mind, and they're Mercury ruled, so they're going to feel this strong because it's a Mercury full moon.
yeah,
So it's,
yeah.
and that mind opening up, like breaking that, you know.
It'll be very interesting. My daughter is a Virgo,
Oh
and
yeah.
and she, and I mentioned her before, and she has this this Instagram profile called Orderly Thoughts. It's
Mm.
the thoughts, Mercury in
Mm-hmm.
order, Virgo. And it's a great place of contemplation. She and I are going to be doing some things together related to that coming up here soon, because I think it's really, how so many of us get lost in our head with our thoughts. And a lot of us have similar thoughts, but that we don't know how to utilize them for our highest good, for our benefit. We just keep going and like round and round and round, but there's a reason it's there. So it's like accessing the medicine of it, and then being able to put it to the side and not get caught in the loop of the same thing over and over and over and over, which keeps you stuck, keeps you stagnant, not moving,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or colors your steps forward, taints what you do.
And confuses you, because, like, thoughts, there's so many options, there's so many ways in our head that we go.
That's
And
so true.
yeah, so we're like, literally, we're at this road and there's like 15 paths out, where, because we know we have to make a choice now which path we take. And our mind, it's not showing us, because our mind thinking isn't, it doesn't there's no sign.
Yeah, but right, because we're lost in the maze of our mind.
Mm-hmm. We've got so many ways we can go. So it's like, now if we're in our mind, so our intuitive, the full moon, that's what the full moon does. The truth, the heart, the moon is our intuitive subconscious becomes illuminated. Thank
Yay.
you. We need this.
Yes.
Even though I do think it's not going to be easy, I do think for some it'll play out as a crisis, and you may not like this, but it is going to put you into where you need to be for the long haul.
Yeah.
Acting in the
Just
way that
remember
you're
that.
supposed to be acting, the way that Saturn wants you to do it. It's like Saturn is course correcting, and Saturn is the boss.
All right, let's move on to Libra.
Okay, Libra, you guys are going to have this well, you've got the South Node in Venus conjoining your first house, and Libras are well known to go along to get along. So they're really letting that go. They're being much more in their Aries energy, in relationships, seventh house, selfish, that's the nature of Aries, which is okay, but they're going to be letting go of inauthentic relationships, ways of existing in relationship, ways of operating in that whole inauthentic relationships. And then they've got the Sun and Mars in their third house, which is taking actions, possibly for communication, third house communication, motivated to take actions or to write. But the Gemini is in their ninth house. So Gemini in their ninth house, let me just get the Sun there for you guys. a Gemini in the ninth house. Sorry, guys, give me a minute here. So Gemini is the ninth house. So there's a full moon illuminating a belief system that has been blocking them from writing, communication, talking, and it's been a resistance, and they've been surrounding themselves with other people in the sixth house or situations around them which are not really part of the plan or not part of their destiny. So now they've got this full moon in the ninth house, opening up their realizing how rigid their thinking has been and how much it has been blocking the truth. Stay with that, because third house, Sagittarius. Now there's writing in there. Usually Libras are excellent writers. So they've been resistance to a writing project because of the rigid belief system. Now, Saturn is in their sixth house, restructuring their everyday to day living situation. And perhaps if you have an illness, it's going to show up in these 3 years that Saturn is there. So it's restructuring your day-to-day life so that you're more healthy. And that's good, but it's squaring. And also Saturn in the sixth house is enemies. The sixth house can be hostility, and it's squaring your third house. So there might be some sort of conflict with an employee, or if you're the boss, a conflict there in a work situation that shifts you. You may quit that job, or you may fire somebody, but there's something happening in your third house with shifting and changing around the people that are around you and your day-to-day routine. And it's all because you have this brand new belief. But you could also open up for travel, because the ninth house is travel. So, and that's where the full moon is. So you suddenly open up your mind. Traveling is a great way to open your mind, open up your rigid thinking about the world and the way things are. So Libras are basically breaking through a resistance towards doing what they're here to really do in that third house, which is, if you're a writer, writing, website, social media, and basically ending toxic patterns. Something has happened that you have to stop. Like, something has either happened with somebody in that in the sixth house, a work employee or a boss. Something ends. Something has to change. And so there's some sort of progress now. You have to keep going, because we're still progressing, but the way we've been progressing can't keep going. So you have to change it, but you still have to progress. So you have to open your mind so you can keep progressing, because there's a way you've been thinking that hasn't enabling you to progress around some kind of a project in the third house.
And maybe the way to do that is using the African daisy as a launching off point, because the African daisy allows you to recognize your talents and your life path. And so it could be that Librans are missing that.
Yes. It's as though they've been resisting what they really want to do because of some sort of rigid sixth house, negative, because critical thinking.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's a reminder too to really have a little bit of fun in the process, like not this feeling the responsibility of it all, especially when it comes to relationships, feeling like you have to show up a certain way, or you have to do certain things in order to keep the peace within the relationship. It's like letting some of that go and just relaxing a little bit and having some fun for yourself, and recognizing the talents that you have, recognizing what you actually truly are interested in doing and where you'd like your life to go. So the African daisy for Libra.
And what's interesting to me about all the other cards have been yellow, orange, and this one's white. And this Mercury and Gemini and Libra is the air energy, is white. It's the intellectual, it's the writer, it's, all that stuff. So it's almost like the Libra-ness of them needs to come out. And there's that pink color, which is romance, Venus in their south in the south node in their first house. It's like their true authentic Libra-ness is coming out, busting out of trying, because Libras are always seeking connections. So the relationships that they are choosing is holding them back from being their Libra self, their full white
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Love
I
it.
love that card. That's such a pretty card. I love that
It
card.
is. It is
All
pretty.
right. So now we're going to go to
Scorpio.
Scorpio. Scorpio on the ascendant. Okay. So you guys are releasing, you've got Venus in the South Node in your 12th. Let's look at where, okay, so you have the full moon in your second house. So great. I know a couple Scorpios. I have a good friend in Scorpio that could really use a full moon in their second house, which is money, which is basically some sort of blockage that is releasing, opening up a blockage. 8th house debt. The moon is going to be in their 8th house. So it's like some sort of, a lot of this stuff, by the way, is stuff that this is stuff we've been ignoring. These are truths we've been ignoring. This is our blind spot. This is the part of us that's hurt, that doesn't want to look at that or feel abandoned, or, so it's like, this is like coming, because the full moon is in your 8th house. You're realizing there's this fear around money, or deep fear around money that blocks, that you have a resistance to. In your 5th house, there it is. It's like Saturn in your 5th house. It's some sort of, because the second house is also our valuing ourselves, what we possess. So it's almost like Scorpio are valuing themselves more with Saturn and restructuring their friends group with that Saturn in the 5th and the moon in the 8th, breaking through a fear. You may come nose to nose with a fear that you're manifesting through your fear. And there's a resistance to the way you're supposed to be making money. So in other words, there's a fear, resistance. I want to say towards, and then the sun illuminating your second house, it brings you clarity around your resistant thinking about a way that you make money that's blocking you from making money. So in other words, you have some sort of rigid thinking, or you're not, the opportunity's there, but you've got some sort of rigid thinking around it that makes you think that it won't work, because you have a fear, a lack of belief, a lack of faith, a resistance. And now you have no choice. You've got to, it's like, because this is, this Saturn, the sun and Mars squaring Saturn in your 5th. It's like Saturn is saying, you're going to have to make this choice. You're going to have to do something here for money that is in alignment. Now, some of these choices that you make may not bring money, or they may bring money right away. It's going to be your salvation, but you've resisted it because of fear. So I'm trying to think of an example.
Well, I can give one again from my life.
Sure,
so,
go for it. Yeah.
Scorpio ascendant. So I sold the condo that I'm currently living in. I'm still in the same place, as everyone has been watching for the past like 18 months.
Yeah.
And I had that money from the sale of the condo set aside to buy another home, and nothing was revealing itself. So I decided that, and I had some opportunities to invest in some things. So I took some of the money from the home sale and have invested it. And what's scary is that, for me, is that it's tied up for a while, which means that if I do find a home in the next 6 months, the money that I needed for it is not available right now. And so making that decision to put the house on hold, potentially, not know where I'm going to go, not know where I will necessarily live when the expiry on this is done, and not necessarily knowing where the money is going to come from for the next piece, is that's been very, there's fear for sure around that. And then how am I going to generate income, generate the money, the revenue, in order to maintain and or move to the next step? So that I could say for sure is what's showing up right now.
Great. So then what's going to happen now is you're going to have to make some kind of a decision here around making money, and it's going to be a way that if you think 2 years ago, you somehow resisted emotionally.
I'll have to think about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you've been resisting it for 2 years. And it's the way that's going to really be profitable. And because it's Gemini there, right? We're looking at Gemini. Wait, Gemini, where's Gemini? Let me align the Gemini. Sagittarius is there. Gemini's in your 8th. So
where's the 5th right now?
You have Saturn in your 5th.
Over what?
Say that again. You have Pisces over your 5th.
Oh, Pisces. Okay. Because I was going to say, the one thing I think I've been resisting is the book that I've written.
I was going to say the writing. I was about to say it's got to be writing. I almost said it. I think it's that you need to get on that book.
Yeah. Which has been showing up, and I have been doing that. So that's for sure.
And you know what could very well bring you this full moon is perhaps funding. Now, here's something I tell a lot of people who are Sagittarius. Thanks for bringing that whole thing up, because Sagittarius is very much the writer as well, the sage, right? And they often in publishing is the 9th house, which is Sagittarius. So a lot of people think they have to finish the whole book. You don't. You just send it out. When you fill out an application form, you have to look at your MC and your human design to know if you should do the initiation or not. But I think you can.
I'm not. I'm a responder.
Oh, you are?
I'm a responder.
Yeah. Well, then an opportunity could come your way, but you want to consider filling out, because that's not necessarily going against responsive. But if you fill out a submission for publication and you go through that process, you discover you do not need to write the whole book.
Well, I've written it.
You have? Oh, okay.
I've written it all. It's just now I'm in the editing phase, and the editing, I don't know how many writers are out there, the editing is much harder and is so much more work than the initial writing.
Then I think this full moon is you going ahead submitting, because you do not have to have it perfectly edited.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing is that I have had a shift in perception around what I'm sharing and what I'm saying, which is why I think it's been blocked. But now I'm ready to go. Yep. Like, let's do it. So, and the two cards.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
No, I was going to say, I think that's great that's what this full moon will bring for you, is that, darn it, just do it. Like, go for it.
I know. I was like, okay, if I work on 1 chapter a day, I can get this done in a couple of weeks. But there were 2 cards that came out, and I love that with these 2 cards, we have some of the colors that have been showing up throughout. And we have the red bird of paradise. It's that power this is a message of focus, get it done. So it's like, that speaks to me very clearly, like, just focus on this project, get it done. And then the nectarine blossom over here activates a sense of, it activates sweetness, but the way I receive this is more of like, just kind of gentleness and kindness with myself. And the message is, you're among friends. So again, I feel like that energy of for me personally, the 11th house with Leo is very much present in terms of taking that next step and having friends supporting me in that process of creating the book. You know, I have a soul sister who is helping me with the cover and with some of the branding and different aspects of the book too. So there's so many beautiful parts of that. I was watching you, Madelaine. You had something was coming through, like you were getting ready to say something and you waited. What was the nugget? It was when I was talking about friends.
Oh yeah. Well, because you have Saturn in your 5th house, and it's squaring Saturn in your 5th house. So something you were saying right then was connecting me to that transit for the next 3 years. Oh, so yeah, there's a restructuring of your friends, and it most likely involves work. Nice. So it's kind of interesting that she's doing the book. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'm going to pop back over to YouTube and see if anybody has any questions, like resonating with it. No, we just have we have some highs and some really sweet little,
hi everybody.
Some gratitude for us doing this and that.
Sorry, my brain feels so unawake. I been very, I slept in this morning till half an hour before this. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe what time it was. I feel like my brain is slightly sleepy. So I'm glad people we're making, we're being somewhat clear here. I hope.
Yeah, my brain feels a little bit foggy as
It might be
well.
that Mercury. See, I've got Mercury on my sun right now, squaring Neptune. So I think we're doing pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, I think so too. We're just going to give ourselves a little bit of a break.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so Sagittarius.
Wow, you guys, you got the sun. Wow, big interest. Wow, you know, this is big for Sagittarians because you're going to have the new Mars cycle in your first house. So what does that mean? Well, this full moon, and you've already been feeling it. Most Sagittarians are I mean, I'm like so active right now, working out. A lot of Sagittarians are working out really strong. I'm going to the gym all the time. I'm really into it, feeling very strong. But now you've got Gemini, you've got the full moon in your seventh house. So there's some resistance because let's find out where that Saturn is hitting for you guys in your fourth house. Wow, very interesting. So you've got some major resistance towards a belief about where you live, where to be. And I'm going through this, of course, this problem right now. And the solution, let's see, the full moon there in the seventh house of Gemini. So basically, Sagittarians are going to be, shall we say, radically changing directions in their lives, suddenly, all of a sudden, out of the blue, changing completely because Mercury's in their sign, squaring Neptune. They realize something. They know what course they need to take. There's this clarity. Seventh house, full moon, realizing something about their relationships. Mercury would be thinking thoughts. So they might be communicating. They're going to wake up. Sagittarians are waking up to how they've operated in relationships. The ego, the sun and the Mars being in their first house, there's ego involved. They're realizing their ego blocks the way they think, their beliefs. I mean, this is really hitting Sagittarius hard because it's like they're really seeing their rigid beliefs, their ego blocks, because a lot of times Sagittarians don't think they're the ones that have it. Everybody else does. Then they go, oh, whoops, it was me who was being like that. So they're sort of realizing some things, squaring with Mercury in their first house, squaring Neptune, divine love, higher octane arts, realizing beliefs, clarity, seeing the illusion, ending a delusional belief mentality. And then there's some sort of resistance towards a relationship that they now open up to. And I would say communication, rapid communication, breakthroughs in communication that they've been resisting, or the way they've been communicating. They're not.
I'm sorry. There were so many things with that it was the flower, it was previous conversations we've had. Like there were just so many things. Sorry.
I'm laughing about it too because I'm just literally telling you about me right now. Basically.
Madelaine, you can connect to this one pretty easily. You got it.
Yep. Guilty. But you know, there was reasons, but the moon being there in your seventh house, it's like an emotional thing. I mean, honestly, I have been crying today. You can tell. I had an emotional breakthrough around a relationship and around my own limited ego mind. And it was just sort of really, it was like an aha thing with that Mercury squaring Neptune. It was like, and it just got really emotional. So it's like, I had a very emotional morning. And but in a way, it's really liberating and breaking through because this is the part in everybody's lives where we're seeing a resistance blocking a truth in our hearts. So Sagittarians are getting illumination around a relationship or around something that's true. And then again, we're getting communications, but there's emotional involvement. I will warn you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, we have the Gravilia with the energy for Sagittarius, and this activates fearless speech. The messages speak your
Oh,
mind. I mean, it's literally the things you were saying,
oh
like
my
just
God.
spot on. And so it's,
Crazy.
when you were saying that, I was looking at this flower and really tuning into the energy of it. And if you look at it, let's see if I can get it.
Look at that with the
Look
yellow
at
behind
all of
it.
the little pieces and parts and the like tendrils that are coming off of it. And I don't know, it's like there's all of these insights, there's all of these nuggets of wisdom, there's all of this that is happening in your mind, and being able to organize it and then distill it down to like this little end that reaches out,
You know
can,
what's, yes. And you know that tree looks kind of like a wall,
a
doesn't
bit,
it? So it's
yeah.
almost like Sagittarians are breaking through a wall. They put a wall up behind their soul, their protection wall, and it's almost like they're showing themselves through that. They're going to show themselves a little bit through the wall.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, in this
Let's see
full
what
moon.
else.
But yes, communication,
Well,
a truth. What did you say about
and
communication, Matt? Brave, being brave, fearless.
fearless speech, speak
I
your
just
mind.
did
And
that.
it's also
Just
about
did that.
coming out of your shell. So kind of like what you were saying, Madelaine,
Yep,
about what you're seeing,
yep.
really being able to be, and I guess again, this comes back to being authentically yourself, like
That's
being
right.
who you truly are.
Not communicating is as much lying as communicating. And in other words, not holding back from communication is just as much controlling as communicating sometimes. And so in this Mercury full moon, we're getting sudden communications. It's almost like the portal
Cool.
opens up for communicating, because that Mars and that sun comes in and says, you can't hold it back, you can't resist it, stop the resistance, and the heart just, or the communication just kind of breaks through, so that seems perfect.
Yeah, what you just said really, it just hit me, that holding back communication is a form of control. Because I'm curious if anyone else has had this experience of no answer is an answer, no response is a response, and what that might mean within your relationships.
Yep.
Yeah, I just had a huge aha. I'm not going to go into it, but that really
Getting a lot of ahas here. We should call this the aha channel.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. Okay,
Yes.
so cool. So
All
Sag.
right. It's actually a really beautiful, I love this full moon in a way, because I don't like it in a lot of ways, because it's frustrating and there's blocks and we feel stuck, really stuck. But it's making us do something that breaks us through from being stuck, that we've needed to do, that we're making our own selves stuck with.
Yeah. Isn't that always the way? That's just often the way.
Yep. And these moons come in and open up that portal and say, yep, you can't, we're not going to let you're not going to be able to do it right now. You're going to break through here. It's like some sort of energy, that Mars sun, just, it's very, gives you motivation, or drive, or the courage, the breakthrough things.
It's funny. Okay. So we're moving on to Capricorn here. And my Capricorn husband sent me this meme from Instagram early on when we were dating. And it was this picture of this girl, a little Asian girl. She kind of looked a little bit like me when I was little, and she was crying, and she had this boot on her face, and she was just like really upset. And then the next picture showed the truth of what was going on. We think we're getting stomped on, but really on the next picture, she's laughing. You see the boot, and then you see her hand is literally in the boot, and she's doing it to herself. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so perfect for us. Like what we all tend to do. It's like, we're like, why is this happening? And it's really like, it's all happening. Like there's an orchestration that we have had a hand in that's creating the disturbance and the distress in our life.
Brilliantly put. I love that imagery, because the head is the fact the boot is on the head is like, that's our problem, our heads,
Oh yeah. The thinking,
ego. You know, if we could just align with our intuitive knowing hearts, we would always know animals like animals. They always know the right way to go.
Yep.
So, okay. All right. So for Capricorns, you guys have Saturn in the third, um, Sagittarius in your 12th house, Gemini in your full moon in your sixth would be perhaps a writing project coming in because that's a work house and it is a mercurial house, which is day to day, also the house of day to day routine changing. Also it's health. And so you're going to have Sagittarius in your 12th house. So there's there's some sort of blind spot for Capricorn here. Very much the 12th house can be a blind spot. And a lot of these blocks are happening with our blind spots. We're not addressing it because we don't know how. We push it aside, and it's important because it's coming in it's usually stuff from that is important. And so we go here with this Sagittarius. So we're getting this breakthrough. There's going to be a deep-seated, it's potentially crisis bound in the sense that something you haven't been acknowledging now shows up that needs acknowledging, and you have to take a lot of action and deal with it. And with because 6th and 12th house are not the best full moons, but there's going to be, I know a Capricorn who this could impact. Most likely with the full moon there in Gemini, you're going to see you need to quit something. You need to stop drinking alcohol or quit sugar or something, some blind spot, some resistance in your head. Like it could be spiritual, like you don't want to quit drinking because you're going to feel something. You're going to feel the pain of your past life and your childhood trauma. So you keep drinking and now you have to quit it and now you feel your pain. But the health, it's a good chance you don't have a choice. And in this kind of weather, there's no choice here. The choices are just like you're going to have to make a choice, but what's clear is you can't keep going the way you've been keeping going. And so with this Capricorn, you've had Pluto in your first house, so you have transformed, no doubt about it. So now you have to sort of, I would say, take action to absolutely restructure your day-to-day living around health and around work. So the other thing is there some kind of busyness or something, because there's some sort of busyness around work that you've been blind spotting. Something about your day-to-day routine or Virgo that you need to be doing that you're not doing on a busyness, or you may have been blind and letting go and letting somebody that you hire run things and you haven't been dealing with it. Well, now you have to deal with it. But in the end, now you are more in control. You're more in alignment with your true destiny. And these are changes that you need to make. You kind of aren't going to have a choice. And a health issue could come up and you have to stop something for a while. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, this so speaks to my guy, because there's work, there's a health thing and there's a work thing. They're kind of intertwined. I mean, it's obviously connected, because if you don't feel well, then that's going to affect the rest of your life, including work. And
talk about a reason you have to change something because of work, because you have to work. Yeah. Well,
and Capricorns, I mean, they're all about work. They're all about work. So what I think is so funny about these two cards, so we have two cards. We have the giant spider lily, which activates a lightness, but the message is free your mind. Hello.
Yes.
And then we have the banana blossom, which activates a spacious mind. And the message is slow down a little. Capricorns do not slow down. They are constant movers. They are constant doers. I mean, even when they're not doing, they're doing.
They like to work.
Yeah. So I feel like this really, really is such an exclamation point to the message that you shared and the message for Capricorns around their health and their work. It's like, get out of your mind, create some space there, slow down, find those things that will bring some lightheartedness to your life, whatever that is.
it brings something to mind. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, go. What is it?
Well, the stressed mind that's always thinking, that's in a state of panic a little bit, trying to figure everything out, trying to work out what to do, where to go, how to get the next thing going for the work so it keeps going and all that, right? So if you're doing that all the time, you're not connecting to your
Here.
true guidance.
Yes, totally.
And that's why, look, in this, they've got this Saturn in the third house squaring it. So it's like third house is your own business, but it's also your thinking, your mind, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they're going to be forced to slow down so they can connect with a truth. So there may be a crisis in work, so they can connect with something that's more true to them, that restructures their day-to-day living around them. Because even in the third house, it's kind of like an energy of who's around you, what's around you, employees, work situations, changing this day-to-day environment, who you're around. And Sagittarius being in their 12th house is, again, the soul coming in and offsetting the mind, the busy, stressed mind.
Yeah, it is very interesting because we have a little staycation planned for the new moon, not this moon cycle, but on the day of the new moon, we're doing this little staycation trip. And
Right.
it just strikes me that the things that will happen between now and then that are going to lead to the potential of him being able to actually really just be for these few days,
Yes.
versus feeling like he
Perfect.
has to be doing a bunch of things or like in this work mode
Yes.
of mental chatter. And then to be able to take care of his health as
Right.
well while we're there.
That's probably why he has a health problems, because he's not doing that.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of things, but yeah. So,
But the
okay.
stress, if you look up diseases, the source or the cause, most of them are stress.
Stress exacerbates, in my opinion anyway, stress exacerbates the underlying metaphysical cause, which typically happens from your early childhood and other lifetimes that you just keep on carrying through the lineage until somebody says, enough, we're not doing this anymore.
Yep.
Clear this out. So
and that is usually when there's a full moon.
Well, clear it. Let's go.
Eclipse. All right.
All right. Aquarius.
Sagittarius over your 11th house. Wow. Full moon in your 5th. Some kind of you could get pregnant. Full moon in the 5th, but very much the energy of friendships, projects, pregnancies, joy, fun, what makes you happy. It's performing, could be performing energy, creative projects. And if you have Gemini over your 5th house, there's a good chance you're supposed to write or create or do some kind of a creative writing project, speaking. It's possible that you become very clear on what project to do, because there's a resistance here. You're supposed to have been doing everything that happens in this full moon. We were supposed to be doing this, but of course we're not being ashamed. We're not bad for not doing it. It's just what the universe has been trying to tap us into, so there's a good chance Aquarians get involved in creative projects with friends groups, or have fun time with friends, knowing they need to have more fun. And with Saturn squaring, so in other words, they may have been just too preoccupied with money, not having enough fun. They now decide to have more fun. They could be going to parties, having a fun time. Aquarians are pretty social. So they might be getting very talkative and friends with parties, friends chatty, and they meet new friends. And then it changes something about the structure of their finances. And then they realize they've had a mental resistance towards an area that can really restructure their income. Or they have a talent. They meet friends that want to work collectively on a project, and they discover, because if you're Aquarius and you have planets in your 2nd house, you're going to have a talent, and Saturn there is going to help you restructure your life so you actually know how to work with this talent. Could be musical talent, or artistic, creative talents, this creative house. So some sort of creative project that you've been resisting because of your mind, your thinking, or maybe you don't think they're really your friends and you have some sort of ego. You had an ego response to them that they're not your friends because your ego. And then you realize you're just being ego. They are your really good friends. You are supposed to take a creative step forward with them on a project. You've got this Sun and Mars in your 11th house. So you're probably, and remember, this is a full moon of communication. So you might be communicating with friends. You might be with Mars and the Sun in your 11th house. It's like a resistance to who your friends groups are. And you've been resisting something here, a project with certain friends groups, limited thinking, because Mercury's there, rigid thinking. You now realize you're gonna, it's almost like if you don't do this, you have nothing else to do. That's kind of the energy. So almost like the only thing that's left for you to do in your life is this. I mean, that's the kind of full moon this is. It's like, it's this or I don't know what I do. I know it's like you've got so many options, but that's the point. You've got so many options that don't mean anything, but there's only one option that you know you've been resisting that's there. And we take that option. So it's like nothing else really seems to go where you want to go. Energy. And it is involving people. Aquarians are here to interface with lots of people and bring people together. So perhaps you decide to start, because the full moon there in your 11th house, you start a social media platform and you have a lot of fun and creative projects on it with friends, and you just break through some sort of ego barrier resistance to who you are on social media and you let loose, you have more fun. Go ahead.
The cards were really not, oh wait, here we go.
They weren't?
I was like, the cards were not cooperating. There was like one card that I thought maybe that was attempting to come out, but then it really wasn't. And now I feel like this one came flying out as soon as I said the cards weren't really cooperating.
That's probably the card that's supposed to be.
Yeah. So pomegranate flower. Again, we've got this. I feel like this is like the similar vibe of all the flowers that have come through. This activates strength. The message is detox and re-energize. And I feel like a lot of what you were talking about has to do with maybe it's detoxing friends. Maybe it's removing people from your life that are no longer aligned with you, where you're going, who you are becoming.
Yeah.
You
know, what's interesting though is that sorry to interrupt, but I got Mercury on my sun in the sign of Sagittarius. So it's like, whew. So it's almost like orange is the creative chakra. So it's like chakra, the creative, passionate. It's like stepping into their passion, because that 5th house really is, maybe that full moon illuminates their passion. What's they really creative. They discover it's a passion they haven't been doing because their mind says no, or what they think. And now but it's a passion and they want to do it. Go ahead.
Well, and this also connects with the reproductive system, creative energy, and self-expression. So all of the aspects of this full moon, the energetics of this full moon, are present for Aquarians now. And I would like to encourage them to access the energy of this flower to support them in this process, because it may be challenging for some Aquarians to let go of people that they really, they can see, yeah, and they can see where there's a benefit for them in their life, but they also recognize, or are beginning to recognize, that there's a cost, and the cost is too high. Right. But it won't necessarily be easy. And this flower would be really helpful in helping them, the pomegranate flower.
It feels like their ego's been stopping them from co-creating with certain groups, and now their passion for it just breaks through their ego.
Yeah. Let's see it. I hope what is the word? I don't want to say hopeful. I am confident that will be the case for some Aquarians. All right. And we are,
wow, Pisces, you guys have Saturn in your 1st house. And I honestly, some people think Saturn in the 1st house is kind of hardships, which can be, but oh my gosh, my son is rising Pisces, and Saturn in his 1st house is doing wonders for him. It's becoming so much more responsible and mature. I love it. I can trust him with so much more stuff. But now you're going to have, wow, this is going to be an interesting full moon for Sagittarius Pisces people, because you've got the Sun in Sagittarius and the Mars in your 10th house, and then you're going to have Gemini in your 4th, full moon in your 4th. And I do know my son is looking to move. So it's like a full moon you have a resistance to moving or living somewhere that you need to move to. It's important. And that's going to bring you better work, more responsibility, more long-term, actually moving to a long-term situation that's going to be more sustaining of your career and work long-term. And you have a resistance to it though. And also you have a resistance to something in your career because Sun and Mars there, where there's going to be no choice in a way. There's a resistance to something that's going to force you over this resistance. It's going to get you over it. You're going to, Saturn is squaring it. So it's like, and Saturn is in your first house. So you're going to see that your ego is stopping you from making a career choice. And then a living situation choice comes in here with the full moon there. So you get off your high horse, your pride, around where you think you're supposed to live and work. I mean, that's probably the best way to put it. And so now you have to make a decision on working and living that isn't necessarily what you think you're supposed to do. In fact, this is where you're supposed to be. So I know a Pisces who's going through a very similar situation. It's like they don't know how to make the money, where to go to get money, how to work right now. They're like at a crisis point. And so it's like their soul knows, but their mind won't let them go there or something. And so there's a breakdown and it opens and it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll go here. It's open, it's available. This is the way I'm supposed to go. And it goes against their resistance which is why they haven't been there until now. So the door slams shut for everybody in some area that they've been willing it. And so for Pisces, I mean, look, let me find that chart again. Here it is. So for Pisces, with that Saturn in their first house, this is big because this is squaring a big thing for them. And this is important because this is going to redirect them for their career, for their Saturn involved is for the long haul. This is an important redirect. This is important. This is changing our direction for the long haul. We're going to be stable somewhere for a long time now after this. This is the end of that struggle, the end of that journey. And so for some people, it may not be, they may not even feel it because they are where they're supposed to be. Those in alignment people, I'm kidding, but sometimes other transits would have gotten them there sooner. So, so this full moon in your fourth house illuminates your resistance to living somewhere you're supposed to live, a career that you have been resistant about. You now are left with no choice. And it actually is where you're supposed to be. And your ego and control and what you think. And this is something I work with Pisces ascendants all the time. It's very tricky with them. They want to go Capricorn. They're not supposed to go Capricorn. They're supposed to go fire. Usually their MC is fire. If they follow, I know a bunch of my son's friends are Pisces. I said, if you really listen to me about this, you're going to be successful. And they really agree with me. They've been listening. And it's basically following that fire. It looks like that card right there. Go ahead.
So we have the bird of paradise for Pisces. I'm just so tickled. Like, this is so much fun. The message is quiet your mind. Quiet your mind. It also magnifies moving from your head to your heart and feeling that deep connection to others, to ideas. And the other part of this that struck me from a different perspective of the fourth house is that, yes, it can be around like your home or where you're living, but it's also your ancestry, your lineage, and maybe some limiting beliefs based on that have kept you from accessing, what am I trying to say here? Your path with your career, your success with your career. And it's been kind of holding you hostage in a way. And, when you're able to see that and break free from that and end that pattern, like we were talking about a minute ago, what can actually open up in your career that you didn't see before?
Yeah. it's time, it's for Pisces, it's time to get very serious about something. They've got Saturn in their first house. So this is
Mm,
like they have to get serious about, and they don't know, they know they have to get serious about something and really, really put their feet into something, their hands into something that's gonna take them forward for the long
yeah.
haul. But they can't see it. And this full moon will bring that. And it most likely the reason they're not there is because they've been resisting it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Oh,
pretty much.
resistance.
Oh, well, we should look at their Venus in the eighth house, South Node. So they're letting go of inauthentic financial income because of fears, or operating in a way to gain finances through fear-based, through a desperate, even it's subconscious. It's very subtle. I better do this so I have income coming in that way, which is okay. But now in these energies, it's not necessarily because you're thinking that's where you got to go. And really,
Yeah.
you're going to get financial abundance is through your fire, following your fire, especially for
You-
ruled by Jupiter.
Well, when you say that, following your fire, what do you mean by that for Pisces?
Yep, very important. So I hear them talking about strategizing. No, because Gemini is a strategizing energy. It's mercurial. Um, Thinking your ideas. Oh, idea. I have an idea. Let's do that. Maybe I could go earn money that way. That's a good idea. George went that way and it worked great. I'll do that way. Or I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do a good job for people. I'm going to have good resume or good referrals. I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to show up. I'm going to make friends with these people and these people because they know a lot about this. And we're going to co-manage very well because I know a lot about this. We can put our work together, la, 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 right?
Yeah.
Or I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep doing this, keep doing it, keep doing it. All Capricorn and mutable. No. Fire is illogical. There's no logic to it. You feel it in here and you don't know why. And it's a fire inside your soul. It's coming from God. It's coming from your higher self. And it tells you, you know what? Get up, go look at that store, go look at that musical instrument, just go try it out. But I'll never be a musician. I can't be a musician. But I do want to but if you follow your fire, it's going to take you where you're supposed to go. But if you have a fire MC, that's how you're supposed to operate. You're supposed to say, you know what? I feel like going to this coffee shop. I don't even know why. I'm just going to go there. And boom, you meet somebody and then you met somebody and now you are collaborating with them or whatever.
Yeah.
So when you follow your fire, the reason you know you're following your fire is because you don't know why you're doing it. It feels guided from a deep place inside you that is being triggered from a source outside of you. And when you follow it, it leads you the right way because your logical mind cannot comprehend the right way. Our logical minds are too mutable. Every day can be another way, a new idea. But the fire inside you, that fire is your talent, it's your creativity, it's connected to the divine. It's how we're supposed to manifest. It's actually a main manifesting power in our psyche body because we go from all the chakras are all our manifesting from the in the beginning is the logos, the thought, the idea. Then we visualize it, we see a vision, then we communicate it, we start talking about that, materializes it, then we start emotionally connecting with it, and there's an emotional, shall we say, love of it or desire. And then we get into the lower chakras, which is you feel fired up and motivated and you believe in yourself by the divine. And then the orange chakra below it is I'm fired up and lost myself in a creative expression that I'm moving from a force that's beyond me. It's like a fire force. So if those are all important powers to manifesting. And then the third chakra, the orange chakra, the red chakra, the bottom one is the action. I'm going to do it. That's the Aries. I'm in the 3D. So following your fire is depending, of course, on your chart, but everybody following your fire is going to lead you a way that is divinely. It's Jupiter. It's Jupiter telling you where to go.
I love how you described that. That was like such a great visual and like a summary of how people can access that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also use that without being consciously aware to manifest things you do not desire.
Yes.
So to be very aware of what thoughts you're thinking, the energy that you're putting out, what, it's, if we really took stock of all of the dialogue that we have within our own head, I think we would be very alarmed by the things that we say to ourselves constantly. Not even taking into consideration the subconscious mind that's constantly running in the background too. So just maybe this would be a great time to just have an awareness of your thoughts and just allow some of them to go, or to shift those thoughts into ones that are really more aligned with what you're looking to create in your life. The feelings that you're looking to have through experiences that you would like to
in fact, when we follow all those 7 steps of manifestation, which is 7 steps, the Bible, I'm not religious, but the Bible talks about 7 steps towards materialization in the first book, the first Old Testament. And so really we're talking about the chakras. We're talking about sacred thinking, because you want to align all these chakras to the one thing. So you're going to have sacred thought about it, divine thought about it, sacred thought, which is you weren't given this thought or this vision without it being divine. So you want to always be in support of it. You always want to think divine thought around it. And then you always speak divine thought, sacred thinking, which is I only think in alignment with the truth of the divine rather than my mind, which is it doesn't, and what I'm thinking follow. In other words, you take all that vision to all the chakras. So sacred thinking is aligning to all those chakras. So the truth, how you really think, your thought stays with how you really think. Your mind stays with the truth. Your mind stays with the clarity that this fire is leading me somewhere. So your mind is supposed to support all the other, and then you materialize much quicker because you're in alignment with all your chakras. It's
so simple. It's so simple, yet can feel so hard.
It's what we're here to learn to master, master these powers that we have.
It's pretty magical. It's a magical time we're in. And we thank everyone for being with us during this magical time and being here in this space with us. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Madelaine, around
I hope all this is helpful for people and that it clarifies everything a little bit more in these very unclear times right now.
Yes. As you can tell, we went a little long even today because both of our brains are just
That's good. That's good. You see, we're in our fire. We're lost. You when you're in your fire, you don't know what you lose time.
We're just rolling, baby. We're just in it. So thank you all for being with us. Please do please do comment, please do share on both my YouTube and Madelaine's so that we can keep the goodness flowing and get the message, the support out to all those who need it. We're so grateful for you as we're closing out this Thanksgiving weekend, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks when we're talking about the Sagittarius new moon. So we will see you all then.
Bye.